when you look for a detox, it's very important to understand how we got toxic in the first place. And if we don't address that, then we oftentimes just detox the body, but never address the reason why we actually our detox pathways are compromised. Stress, probably the most common causative factor, impacts our intestinal tract. The intestinal tract gets irritated, it gets dried out, we get constipated. Now, of course, we can't detoxify. The villi inside the intestinal tract get irritated and they produce reactive mucus. All of a sudden, we may see that we have regular bowel movements, but we're not absorbing our nutrition as well because this reactive mucus has bogged down these villi. Sometimes we produce even so much mucus we see the mucus in the stools, or we have looser stools. This is a major concern because when those villi become compromised, the fat-soluble toxins, heavy metals, environmental pollutants, pesticides, preservatives, plastics, parasites, so many of our cancer-causing chemicals are stored in our fat cells because they are not detoxified through these little villi, and they pull through the wall of the intestinal tract into the lymphatic system where they get neutralized. If the lymphatic system has become boggy and congested, then our detox process, our first defense against these toxins, has been compromised. So the first thing we must look for in a detoxification program is does it heal and repair your intestinal mucosa? Does it reset perfect bowel movement and bowel function without the need of laxatives, without modifying your diet, eating more vegetables, eating more fiber, taking herbal laxatives? You should eliminate naturally, once a day, within an hour of waking up, a complete bowel movement. Outside of the intestinal wall is the gut-associated lymphatic tissue. And that lymphatic system needs to be patent, needs to be moving waste out in a very efficient manner. And if that lymphatic system has gotten compromised, then we start to feel toxic. We get heavy, sluggish, congested, we swell, we get rashes on our skin, itchiness on our skin, we hold on to more water weight, our belly becomes extra bloated and gaseous, we get cellulite, we have breast swell when you menstruate, your joints begin to ache, skin rashes or skin tags or extra moles on your skin. The body will be looking for ways to push the impurities out because the major detox channel has been compromised. So the second thing, in addition to healing and repairing the intestinal mucosa, and number two, making sure that the intestinal function is optimal. Number three, making sure that the lymphatic system on the outside of the gut is de-stagnated and detoxified. So we need a good lymphatic detox component to your detoxification program. And then you also must remember that stress, which is the leading cause of about 80% of disease, is the #1 cause of the impact on the digestive system. So it's so important to help sever the relationship between the stress and your gut, and then we can begin to heal the intestinal mucosa, de-stagnate your lymph, and now you're on your way to a great detoxification program. However, if your villi are compromised and your digestion is not optimal, which most people's aren't, and you can kind of tell if your digestive system is not optimal because we find ourselves slowly over the years gaining more weight, getting more stiff, modifying our diet. We stop eating gluten, we stop eating dairy, we stop eating fried food, fatty food, greasy food, heavy food, cream sauces, things like that, breads, baked goods. We have these issues with regard to digesting food, so we just stop eating those hard to digest foods. And that is a telltale sign that our digestive system is not optimal. So what I want to share with you today in this video, and through our cleansing program, we want to reset that real strong digestive strength so you can detoxify and digest and assimilate your nutrition optimally. And if we don't have really good digestive strength, you simply cannot detoxify. It's just that simple. You have to have good digestion to detoxify well. Now, if those villi are compromised, or you have any of the symptoms that I just mentioned, and this is written in detail in the article associated with this video, those toxins, those fat-soluble cancer-causing chemicals, get reabsorbed back to your liver. Your liver becomes overwhelmed. It becomes congested. It throws the fat-soluble chemicals into your bloodstream, into your fat cells, where they store. The fat cells have a saturation point. They will only take so many fat cells. They will push the fats back into the bloodstream, and they will look for new deposit centers. Oftentimes the brain is one of the top choices because the brain is a big concentration of fatty tissue, and it can create neurotoxicity, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, stroke, a lot of cognitive issues as we age, and that may happen in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, but that has been brewing maybe since you're 20 and 30 years old when you lost that real strong digestive strength. When the liver becomes congested, the bile becomes thick, and the bile's job is to neutralize these fat-soluble chemicals that come into our intestinal tract, heavy metals, parasites, chemicals, things like that. And if they're not neutralized by the bile, then they can't be absorbed through the intestinal villi. They get recycled back to the liver. Liver becomes more congested, more toxic. The bile becomes more thick, and now the acids coming out of your stomach can't be neutralized by the bile either. So the acids will burn the intestinal wall. The intestinal wall goes, oh my gosh, that's way too much. The intestinal wall sends a message to your stomach, say, please don't send that acid out like that again, and the stomach turns down the fire. The burner just goes to a simmer. Instead of cooking the food, we warm it up. We simmer it. We don't cook our food. We don't break down and emulsify the toxins any longer. And now we have to modify our diet to actually feel good because our digestive furnace had been turned down because our detoxification pathways, our bile flow, the intestinal villi, the intestinal function, the lymphatic drainage, all have been compromised. So a good detoxification program needs these things. 1, sever the relationship between the stress and your gut. Number 2, heal and repair your intestinal villi and the function of your intestinal wall. Number 3, de-stagnate your lymphatic system. Number 4, thin the bile. Once you've done that, now you're ready to detoxify those fat-soluble tissues that have been stored for 20 and 30 years. Some of the research that was done on Panchakarma showed that 13 of the major cancer-causing chemicals that were stored in people's fat cells were detoxified during the Panchakarma process and continue to detoxify for 3 months after the cleanse was completed. In addition, chemicals like dioxin were pulled out of people's fat cells that had been stored for 20 or 30 years. So once these chemicals go into our fat cells, they simply don't get out. And we live carrying these really disease-causing, cancer-causing chemicals in our body for many, many, many years. And this is why it's so critically important to detoxify. Please, this May, take a look at our Colorado Cleanse. Let me guide you step by step through a detoxification program. We're going to do it online, with conference calls, with video, with emails every single night. Let me take you through a beautiful cleanse. It's a 2-week cleanse. Take a look at our Colorado Cleanse and then go from there. If you have any questions or difficulties, I'm available to take people through private, personal, supervised cleanses through phone consultations if you have some issues that are a little bit more significant. Please check out my website for the details about the Colorado Cleanse. Please read the article associated with this video. I am Dr. John Douillard. Thank you for listening.